Okay, so we're going to be doing something called the subtraction method for telling time. All right, here's what it means, here's how it works. So the subtraction method is the equivalent of when we hear people say of or to tell time. So if somebody tells you it's 10 of 10 or it's 10 to 10, they're telling you that it's 10 minutes of or 10 minutes to the next hour, which is the same as saying before. So 10 of 10, 10 minutes before 10, all right? Something that's commonly said, but sometimes we struggle to understand it. So there's a method to do this in Spanish also, and here's how that works. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be rounding our time to the next hour, and then we're going to be subtracting. Here's where subtraction method comes in, subtracting the remaining minutes until we get to that hour by literally using the word menos, which we should hopefully remember means minus, right? However, there's certain parameters that we have to follow. You can only use the subtraction method in Spanish between minutes 31 and minutes 59 of the hour. So that means if I were to give you something like 8:20, I'm looking at my minutes. My minutes do not fall. The 20 does not fall between 31 and 59. So I would do this the normal way. I cannot do subtraction method here because my minutes don't match my parameters. Okay? If I gave you something like 8:40, the 40 falls inside this 31 to 59. So here I would do the subtraction method, right? And the subtraction method works like this. You take your time. We'll just stick with 8:40, okay? And again, we want to round up to the next hour and subtract the remaining minutes. So to start, we're going to start the same way. Because it's 8 o'clock, we're going to start by saying son las, which we normally do. All right, son las. Now I'm rounding up to the next hour. Next hour after 8 is 9 o'clock. Son las 9. And then I'm literally going to say, instead of E, I'm going to replace the E with menos to give me my minus. And then my remaining minutes until the next hour, all right, is 20. So I would just write 20. Now, there's no AM or PM here, but if there was an AM or PM, I would continue to use it. All right, so to say 8:40, using the subtraction method, I would say it's 9 minus 20. Son las 9 menos 20. So I'm rounding up and subtracting the remaining minutes until that hour. Remember, we're subtracting from 60 because there's 60 minutes in an hour, right? Here's where we have to be careful, okay? If it's 1:50, typically we would start this with saying es la una because we're talking about 1 o'clock. But with the subtraction method, I cannot do that because I'm not talking about 1 o'clock anymore. I'm really talking about 2 o'clock. So the 50 falls inside my parameters of 31 to 59, right? So I'm going to start with son las still, because I'm going to say dos. Son las dos. It's 2. I'm talking about 2 o'clock now, not 1 o'clock. I'm rounding up to 2. I'm subtracting the minutes. How many minutes until the next hour? 10. So my answer would be son las dos menos 10. It is 2 minus 10. 10 minutes to 2. Right? The other situation where we have to be careful is for 12 o'clock. So again, 12, let's say 45. The 45 falls inside my 31 to 59 parameters, okay? But I have to be careful because if I'm rounding up to my next hour is 1 o'clock, I have to start by saying es la una because I am now talking about 1 o'clock. How many minutes until 1 o'clock? 15, so menos 15. Right? Again, I'm minusing the number of minutes to the next hour. So I have to be careful depending on what my hour says. Okay, these are easy because the next hour is still sonlas. Here we have to be careful. We're not talking about 2 sonlas. We're not talking about 1 instead of 12 esla. Right? My time of day stuff's not going to change. It stays normal, stays original. So for example, if I gave you 5:55 p.m., this would typically be the afternoon. But in 5 minutes, it's the evening. But we have to be careful here. So my next hour is 6 o'clock, which means I can start with sonlas, because it's not 1 o'clock. I round up to 6. 6. I'm subtracting menos. How many minutes am I subtracting? I'm subtracting 5. 5. Now, you're going to keep the original. Although it's going to be the evening in 5 minutes because our cutoff is 5:59, you stick with the original time that we're talking about. Because although we're rounding to 6, it's not 6 yet. We're saying it's going to be 6 in 5 minutes. So this would still be de la tarde because we're still talking about the afternoon. So this is important. You keep whatever the original time says for the AM, PM, you just treat that the way we've been doing the whole time. Okay? And that, in a nutshell, is your subtraction method. Round up to the next hour, subtract the number of minutes left. Be careful when we get to the 1s and the 12s because no longer esla, no longer sonlas, right? We're talking about 2 sonlas, we're talking about 1, technically esla. And that's it.